Welcome, welcome, welcome to Hermetically Speaking with your vessel, Toriea, transmitting alchemy, mystic psychology, and channeled messaging for all of our days. Here, we explore the sacred, the shadow, and the infinite spiral path of awakening, so you can remember who you are beneath the programming and rebuild yourself from the inside out. And as always, go back to episode 1 for my disclaimers on mystic psychology and the fact that I am not a medical professional, and everything I speak on is through experience and an energetic standpoint rooted in the ancient wisdom of Hermeticism. Therefore, if you are seeking medical advice of any kind, please consult a licensed professional. Welcome back to Hermetically Speaking with your vessel, Toriea. We've had a great prosperity blend burning today. Just filmed last week's energy therapy session, so check that out if you haven't already. And let's get started. Today's episode came through as a very clear download. Life can feel like a mountain made of fractals. And we have discussed fractals in previous episodes in the beginning of the season. However, this is more about the language that we talk about, or the language that we refer to experiences or respond to experiences that create the fractals, or, inhibit. Is that the word I'm looking for? I don't know. Anyways, what it comes down to is when you're standing in front of an experience and you're confused and you're hurt and you're exhausted, and all that you can say, or the individuals around you that are trying to comfort you say, what's the most famous words? That should have never happened, right? That person should have never died. You should have never gotten fired. You should have got that job. They shouldn't have passed you up. That trauma shouldn't have touched me. All of those are just consistent reiterations of making things more complicated in our lives. And while all of those feelings can be valid, the phrases do not induce alchemy. If anything, they are the opposite. They keep us stagnant, they keep us fighting, they keep us in resistance, and they keep us in victimhood. And so phrases as such keep us staring at a mountain in front of us instead of ascending it, or better yet, dissolving it all together. And, we say these things so often in our everyday speech. It's kind of autopilot. It's also, they're words that it's not that we don't mean them, but sometimes they're just filler space because you really don't know what to say in the circumstances, right? Like phrases like, I can't believe they treated you like that, or it's so messed up, you have to go through this, or you didn't deserve that. And we're not wrong for saying these things. We're trying to show support. However, support isn't the same as reinforcement. And sometimes what we really need is to be reminded that everything, absolutely everything, is serving something greater. And when we stay in the place of this shouldn't have happened, we're declaring war on what did happen. And this isn't about bypassing trauma. It's about reclaiming your relationship to what happened. Every bit of angst, hatred, resentment, unforgiveness, when held on to, becomes how we treat ourselves and how we treat the world around us, right? Like, we know this. Have we ever really dissected how these thoughts contribute to it, though, or how these phrases contribute, right? Because what we speak is magic, remember? Spelling, words, spells. Are we speaking black magic or are we speaking white magic? Which one is it? And we say these things every day, almost automatically. And we're not wrong for doing it. It's just time to bring awareness to how we're holding pain by insisting that it shouldn't have existed. So think about when a friend shares a breakup, right? Like we tell them, oh, you didn't deserve that. Or someone gets fired. That's so unfair. Or someone says, I can't believe they're making you go through this again. Especially when it's cycles that are repeating, relationships repeating, experiences repeating. We think we're comforting them. However, sometimes we're reinforcing the belief that life is happening to them rather than for them. And when we allow those words, this shouldn't have happened, or anything that neglects the fact that it did happen, we are also allowing in a belief system that no longer serves us. It's okay for another to believe that we shouldn't have had to go through something. That's okay because their perspective is different and they might not be in the same space that you are in your awakening. However, being the sovereign beings that we are, it can actually cause us harm to believe another's comforting perspective of solace. No matter how unintentional it is that we gravitate towards the belief that they have instead of our own. Because other people's words influence us, especially when we come from a background of people pleasing or codependency or just lack of self-worth, right? Who among us hasn't felt resentment or rage the moment someone else says, hey, what you just went through wasn't cool, right? Like when we hear somebody else tell us that, like it enthralls us more into thinking, you're right, I should have never went through that. I should have never had to experience that. And so what happens, I'm sorry, I lost my place. So now if abuse, and I do want to take a side note, if abusive or unhealthy behavior is being pointed out, that awareness is always healthy. However, these circumstances are still here to serve you in awareness. The entire experience is here to serve you if you allow it. If your friend is, pointing out any abusive behavior or things that maybe you're not ready to look at, that's a totally different topic than what I'm conferring to. I'm completely referring to everyday circumstances that don't go our way and we kind of are bummed about it or we want to complain about it, which is perfectly fine because, right, we have all these different parts and all these different emotions. Complaining is a part of that and we're allowed to do that. However, we're also allowed to complain without somebody reinforcing that we're a victim in some way, shape, or form, right? And this is where you become the creator of your reality and you take control of the dynamics that you're involved in. So, because I know firsthand, I have allowed others' words to shut me down from understanding that a circumstance is happening for me. And so today I'm shedding the light that when someone tells me it shouldn't have happened, well, it did. And it should have. And that's perfectly okay because even when it's painful or nervous system wrecking, it's absolutely helping me to see, heal, feel, and understand my programming and my sovereignty at the same time, right? Like all of these things help me feel what is in alignment and what is not. And sometimes those words, it shouldn't have happened, have been like a cloak of protection. People say it because they can't explain why. But it's not for them to explain why. It's for you to understand why. What magnificent healing you're headed toward that you needed that to happen, to activate the pain, to propel you away from old behaviors and old ways of thinking that no longer serve you, or to show you you're safe and no longer need to live in a form of fear. What you thought would last your lifetime, you can release. And what you thought would define you forever, you can lay down. And so when someone can't explain why and just says it shouldn't have happened, remember, your soul already knows why. And it's just waiting for you to ask so it can lead you home. So release your attachments to should've, would've, could've's, and even out your own playing field. Stop exhausting yourself climbing mountains and blocking your own vantage points. Invite in deeper truths of servitude. Because if someone else losing their job or a death or something happening can aid your journey, why can't those same circumstances happen to you personally and still aid your journey? Right? And so we have a nice little transmission from the Mantis frequency about the fractal mountain. You perceive the pain as obstacle, as betrayal, as detour. Yet from our vantage, it is a mountain made of fractals, assembled by your soul so that you may ascend piece by piece toward remembrance. Each shard, each shouldn't have happened, is a vertex. And when you say, this was wrong, that should not have been, you cast a shadow upon your own map. You halt your climb. But when you say, I now allow this to serve me, the mountain collapses into a plain, not because it disappears, because your vision rises. You no longer see through the illusion of separateness, but from the oneness that you are. Beautiful, beautiful words from a beautiful frequency. And so we are allowed to be sorry that someone is going through something hard. We are allowed to feel grief and anger and confusion when life doesn't go the way we planned, right? Because we're still in these stages as humans, that these are our normal reactions and how we feel. We're still understanding that every component of alchemy is sacred and to be nurtured. And it doesn't mean that once we understand that, the emotions like grief and anger go away. They don't. They just become easier to process, easier to understand, more acceptable to ourselves and to our nervous system, because we know we're not going to stay stuck in it anymore, right? Like that's one of the biggest things, that we've been stuck in these sufferings for so long. And now we have to normalize being able to move out of them. We have to acquaint our nervous system with release and freedom. So if we stay stuck in the idea that something shouldn't have happened, we keep resisting the very thing that wants to teach us how to fly, right? Like our vision rises is what the Mantis frequency said. And that resistance becomes internalized. It becomes, again, how we treat ourselves and how we project onto the world, how we reflect onto the world. And acceptance doesn't mean approval, right? Like I've had to accept some pretty devastating, traumatic events in my life. And while it doesn't mean that I condone or approved of those person's actions when I was accepting them or learning how to accept them, acceptance still helps us integrate. It means that we're no longer making ourselves the victim or the villain of our own story. And to show you how this works in real time, I am going to share a very personal experience that happened recently, of course, just like, when this episode was called to come into play, because I usually have my narratives or my podcast topics written weeks in advance. And then I go through and I write the scripts. And of course, giving credit where credit is due, some to ChatGPT, because, Mama can't do it all as well. I can do it as fast in my head as ChatGPT can, but I can't do it as fast on paper and pen as ChatGPT can. So it's really nice to see ChatGPT, because I feel like something has finally caught up with me and the way that my mind works. So anyways, personal experience is what we're getting to. And of course, this would happen, I think we're on 2 weeks before I actually record this. I was graciously able to embody a lot of what we're talking about numerous times, but this time so significantly expansive that it was undeniable. And it was through an experience that I called in, right? Like I am the creator of my reality. It was part of my path, part of my healing. And I did mention it briefly in last week's episode. When I spoke about this occurrence, someone very close to me had said, like, their initial response was, I'm so sorry that you're going through this. You shouldn't have to deal with this. And in reality, my response to them, I had this full encapsulating response of, it's okay. Like, I'm glad that it did. Like, yes, this was supposed to happen, even though in the moments I wasn't exactly thrilled about it. Because it was one of the most freeing moments I've ever had. And I know I'll continue to have more, and I've had them in the past, right? Like we always have these really great markers where they show our progress. And my inner parts, like we've talked about in previous episodes, during this experience, they like reared up. Some were terrified, some were angry. some were at peace. However, and my body responded like a complex PTSD body does and started, kind of convulsing, going into a panic attack, nauseated, trembling. So my body, my mind, my emotional, all of my different fields, my different parts were kind of responding in different algorithms. And it created conflict internally, however, only for a very short period of time. Because I knew this was for my growth and for my gain. And I knew that I had called this in because I know that I'm the creator of my reality. And when you start to embody that and you really understand that that's what you do as a conscious creator, then you can no longer deny when something enters into your physical reality that you did not contribute to it in some way, shape, or form. And that's kind of where I was like, I understand this fully now. And this was one of those check marks that was like, all right, let's see how well you understand this. Are you going to deny this then? Are you going to deny this experience right in front of you, even though it's one of the experiences that you had never thought you'd be able to handle in your entire life? And creating the experience does not mean that I was prepared for it in the moment. Well, it's kind of a paradox. My ego wasn't prepared for it in the moment. My ego did not know that it was going to happen at that date and at that time and how it was going to happen, right? However, every other part of me has been preparing for this. I used to believe that if I had ever come face to face with this specific experience in real life, that I would be frozen in fear, that I would fall apart right where I was. And at some point in time, I would have, and I did. And it took me years of preparation through prayer, meditation, inner work, sobbing to my higher self in the dark night of the soul to truly begin developing forgiveness for myself and the one who had once harmed me. Because forgiveness isn't passive. It's not a concept. It's a job, a feeling, a belief system you work for inside yourself. And we'll probably do an episode on forgiveness, just because in my past experience, right, like forgiveness was passive. Right? And I'm stressing here now that forgiveness is not passive. You don't just say, I forgive you. Forgiveness is an action before it can ever be a word. And a lot of times we use it as a word before we ever use it as an action. And I stress this because I lived for so long with rage and hatred toward an individual, towards their family, towards different aspects, toward even places, and toward myself for ever having been entangled in such circumstances until someone shared the image of the unforgiveness hook with me. So basically, like two fish caught on the same line, and by refusing to forgive anything outside of me, I was also refusing to forgive anything inside of me. And that bound me to that experience in a way that I didn't want to be bound. No matter how traumatic, no matter how painful, you can work through and find forgiveness. And I worked through every phase for as long as it took, and it took a long time. At first, I wanted this, and I mentioned this in the last episode, but I'm just going to kind of, just in case you missed that last episode or, just need a redundancy. I wanted this individual to heal so that way they would stop hurting me. Then I wanted them to heal so they'd stop hurting others. And eventually I came to the conclusion that I wanted them to heal so they'd stop hurting themselves. And so they would stop hurting. Because that individual matters. And at some point, at many points in this individual's life, they were taught that they didn't. They were taught that power, shame, control, and abuse were what made someone strong. And we all deserve healing from that. We all deserve freedom. We all deserve liberation from the lineages of pain, distortion, and dis-ease. And I will always remind you, you may very well have been the incarnation of your own great-great-grandmother who contributed to the behavior in the first place. It's all a spiral of evolution, a circle of connection. And the more we remember that we are one, the more we realize that we are the ones that we've been waiting for. And because I've done this work firsthand, I was able to understand that I called in the experience of coming face to face with the individual that I have a lifetime protective order against. and I'm sure, and if I haven't mentioned it before, sometimes I try to exclude this from episodes because I don't, personal experiences are really good to discuss every now and then, because I know that they breed connection. However, this podcast is also about finding yourself and becoming your own guru, and really understanding that you are everything that you need inside and out, and how to harness that. And so while my experiences can probably help you, the details of those experiences sometimes aren't really that important, right? It's just understanding that I have been there and I have done this. And I would never ask my listeners or my clients or anyone to do anything that I am not willing to do myself or haven't already done. That is like literally one of the entire mantras of my life ever since I can remember. And that's from trauma that has of course occurred, and it's that mantra has guided me to where I am today, and I'm very privileged to have that mantra honoring my life. Anyways, I do have a lifetime protective order against someone. The courts granted it to me, and it's been, I don't know how many years since I've received it. Probably just shy of a decade, somewhere over the better half of a decade. And I moved to get away from this individual. I changed my name to get away from this individual, and all of that is kind of public record now. And all of this happened in psychosis. Well, it started before psychosis. Anyways, and then throughout. So I have this lifetime protective order against someone, and they ended up, and this isn't the first time. However, it's been so long that, I didn't think it would happen again. My ego was like, no, that's not going to happen, right? Even though if I look at the weeks preceding this experience, like, yep, everything that I was speaking, whether it was in my therapy sessions or working with myself and, my journey, it, like, retrospect, yep, okay, this is exactly what I was preparing myself for. I was telling myself without sometimes, completely grasping, like, this experience was going to happen right in front of me. Anyways, long story short, the person that I have a lifetime protective order against ended up just under 5 feet away from me in a public store. And I haven't seen this individual in years. And, some traumas are so extreme that even someone's face can trigger you in such extreme ways. And it's not that there's anything disgusting about this individual anymore. Like, it's just that the fear of someone that you know that you'll remain safe from for the rest of your life showing up to, like, reiterate that you're safe is a fun experience. And like I said, my body responded, but somewhere in my mind the whole time, like, I knew that I was okay. I knew that I wouldn't call this experience in to harm myself. That's not who I am anymore. I don't harm myself. I love myself. I nurture myself. I keep myself safe. And being able to call an experience that proves that I'm safe, even if this individual is in the same public setting as me, is magnificent. Now, there's still no contact, and there never will be. And that's because our paths no longer merge in that regard, right? Like, our soul contracts did what they came here to do, and now we move on in separation in the physical realm. Because to say that I'm not connected to that individual in some way, shape, or form in the etheric would be a lie, because we are connected to everything. However, I have shields, I have protection, I have my soul journey, and it is separate from theirs in that regard. And so all of these things, like, clicked in my mind while I'm also like, what the F is this person doing here? Why are they here? Are they back here trying to stalk me? Are they, all of these scary, scary thoughts resurfaced from all of the years of hell and trauma that this individual put me through. And, after about an hour or two I kind of reduced back into calm normalcy. And, my reaction was never anything completely crazy. However, all of these thoughts of he shouldn't be here, this isn't fair, why would he be here, why is he here? That's the one that really started lingering over and over again, was why is he here, why is he here, why is he here? Trying to figure out why he was there, right? Like, hello, he's there because I'm safe. You know what I mean? And if for some reason he ever got a wild hair up his ass, all I have to do is call the police, because I do have the law on my side to protect me. However, this was showing me that I have moved on so beautifully from the trauma and the experiences and the soul contract that I had, that I can absolutely live happy, joyous, and free. And there is no pain in me that reverberates that it would want him to feel pain upon seeing him. Like, no thoughts of, I wish he'd die, or I wish he'd go back to where he came from, or I wish he'd relapse, or, whatever it is. It's still just, I hope he heals so he doesn't hurt anymore. I hope he heals so he can help heal his family, because I know they're a bigger part of the problem. And that has allowed me to move forward in a way. I'm sorry, I'm like gonna cry because I'm so happy. And there are parts of me that are still sad sometimes that I went through that. Or that we went through that, right? Like, in our separate ways, not together, in our separate ways. I'm still untangling some of those, the subconscious behaviors that come with it. Without this direct experience, I may not have had the opportunity to do this, though, right? Like, without being triggered in this regard. And this is no longer necessary. I mean, yes, my body was triggered and went into its physical responses from PTSD. However, what I'm saying is trigger as an activation, right? Because a trigger is an activation point. And so I was triggered into an activation of going deep into my subconscious layers. And, now, especially the days immediately following, when I pull into a parking lot, I'm scanning that parking lot. When I walk into the store, I'm scanning that store. And I had to physically remind myself to be present. I'm just freaking grocery shopping. That's it. And this individual is just another passerby. That's all they are. That's it. And for them to show up on this journey, it might mean they're also on their healing journey, right? That's the only way that anybody could, kind of come into that field in some regards. Or it could just be reassurance that I'm safe. Either way, to be safe means that he's probably on his healing journey, which is wonderful for him and his family and his children and whoever else's lives he touches moving forward. Because this is something that is not normally spoke of, but the people that have created heinous and biased crimes are going to need true forgiveness. They are going to need true nurturance and true healing, just like every other one of us that had those things committed against us. And then then you work through the layers, and then you kind of, after their age and the anger and the pain, you're like, oh yeah, these people were probably treated the same way that they treated us. And so if I had stayed on that steeple of where I had no control over my life and what was going on, and my egoic cries of, I didn't know this experience was coming, or why the fuck are they here? I would be crashing back into my old behaviors of fear and victimhood. Instead, I get to crash the mountain down into the plane and raise my vibrational frequency, raise my line of sight, like the Mantis frequency mentioned. And I get to keep on walking, flying, and living my path knowing it's all part of my map. Excuse me, of my energetic blueprint map, like honoring it, the sanctity of it, like really embodying non-duality. Excuse me, I take a quick drink. So because everything comes back to this big scary mountain and having to constantly exhaust myself climbing it, right? Like I get exhausted with these mountains. And even though I was able to level the playing field, right? Like that's kind of, I wonder if that's really like what the symbolic meaning of level the playing field is, because it keeps coming up since this experience happened. And that's what I'm doing, is I'm leveling the playing field for myself. But it doesn't mean that I don't face other mountains, right? Because now I have to reprogram again. I have to reprogram all of these things that were in my subconscious, these small other layers that wouldn't have come up had I not had this face-to-face experience. And yeah, I could have lived my whole life not having that face-to-face experience, but I'm here to break down walls. I'm here to help people understand non-duality. I'm here to help people embody their highest timeline and their highest path and achieve their dharma. And to do that, that means I need to do and walk the same, which means no stone unturned, right? No mountain unturned, no stone unturned, no mountain like not climbed, whatever we want to say. And so, yeah, the hard part afterwards is the little mountains in my head with the neuroplasticity and not getting stuck on them, having to really focus, not even really having to focus, just not getting annoyed and exhausted, right? Like I have a partner that I live with and he is phenomenal. He is amazing. And however, because I ran into this individual, I started having, like my brain started trying to swap my partner out in a sense. Like if I would be thinking about, oh, we're going to go do this on Friday, or we're going to go do this. And, just kind of like thinking of what it's going to be like or how nice it's going to be. My brain would kind of swap my partner out for this individual from my past and, kind of like put it in a negative aspect. And I would have to be like, no. Like, that's not my partner. My partner is not him. Like, this is how it's going to be with my partner because this is who my partner is. And I know that. And I have to kind of keep reiterating that to myself because having complex PTSD and Stockholm Syndrome is probably exacerbates the complex PTSD in a way that, I don't know, like the brainwashing is a little bit more. However, my therapist also says that it's because of the intimacy. Because my partner and I, Joe, we grow in intimacy every year, every month, every week. And it's obviously a very different type of intimacy than the abuse that I suffered and the trauma that I endured. And so there's like a mental swap out in a sense because it's something that I haven't really experienced before. And so, but with obviously all of it happening at once kind of really rears the neuroplasticity up, right? Like the need for it, all of the subconscious programming. That's why neuroplasticity is so important. Like we can literally reprogram our minds, but it is one of the most exhausting things that I've ever done. I get frustrated with it. I get annoyed with it. I want it to be a one and done thing, and it's not. And we'll probably have to do an episode on that because I'm sure anybody else feels the same way. I remember when I was reprogramming my mind in the service industry because somebody ordering a burger or a salad, somebody saying no tomatoes literally would send me into a flashback. And it was very, very hard to deal with that. So I would automatically have to be like, okay, my stepbrother doesn't like tomatoes. And then my stepdaughter, her boyfriend at the time ended up not liking tomatoes. So I was able to replace it with something more recent. However, it still took probably, I don't even know, 1,000 1,000, rewires, 1,000 attempts to where I can like hear no tomatoes and be perfectly fine. And your body gets, neuroplasticity is kind of probably like a muscle in some ways. Like it becomes easier and easier as you move through it. And I feel like I've rabbit holed on this podcast a couple of times. However, I hope you're still enjoying it. And I hope it is really helping you see yourself within yourself and help finding you within yourself. So I'm going to get back to the script, which was where we were talking about having to climb the mountains. And so, yes, so returning to the mountain and the way that I've been able to unfold this mountain's shape to benefit me instead of block my vantage point, right? So while I'm still maybe climbing, it's with ease and skill and precision, right? Like I don't have to worry about not being safe anymore. I can just focus on neuroplasticity. Whereas before, it would be all of those things, and that would be even more exhausting. Our dances with death, our brushes with tragedy, our chapters of abuse or loss, these are soul contracts, right? These are things that we entered into some shape or form, and this could be a controversial subject. So I would really like to reframe it and say, my dances with death, my brushes with tragedy, and my chapters of abuse and loss were soul contracts. Everyone needs to come to this understanding if it belongs to them in their own time frame. And me learning how to use them in this regard, they've become my greatest teachers. Even though when I was very much shown that they were my soul contracts, like embodiment, higher self comes down and shows me in full light that it was my soul contract. The embodiment, like when my higher self is with me in those embodiment moments, it's like, okay, I understand that. But, when that kind of releases, you kind of want to go back into doubt. You kind of want to go back into, I wish I didn't know that. I didn't want that to be like, damn it, that really sucks. Like, and so those are the phases of that in some regards. And so like, it's all a process, right? And society isn't structured to support this view by any means at this point in time, which of course keeps us trapped in the phrases like, in a perfect world, this wouldn't happen. But we come from a perfect world, one where pain and chaos do not exist. And that's exactly why we came here. Imagine 6 million years of nothing but peace. Wouldn't you get curious? Wouldn't you want to try something different? Even if it meant entering a body, facing loss, experiencing grief, whatever you've gone through, I want to remind you of what I have personally learned. I spent over a decade in abusive situations, multiple decades even. And for a long time, I judged myself my entire life based on one of those single decades. I looked at it as that decade of my life was a waste of time. I wasted my life, and then I realized, what is 10 years when I have lived 10,000? And just because I don't remember them all consciously doesn't mean I don't know that my soul is ancient, that I am part of something far beyond this one timeline. 10 years is a blip. And what I gained in soul strength through those 10 years may be immeasurable across lifetimes. Because I can promise you that I understand fully that my timelines are all lived in a non-linear fashion. That is something that I have embodied, that I understand. And what I went through in those years spread across all those timelines, and so did the healing from it. And the healing from it has been immeasurably magnificent, and that is radiating across every lifetime as well. I am healing everything in every timeline, every past, future, present life with the work that I am doing. And that's what I want for you. And so when you catch yourself saying this shouldn't have happened or they shouldn't have done that, or when you hear others say it, don't judge them. They may not understand yet. However, you do. And you're not looking for bypasses anymore. You are looking for doorways. And you have the key to walk through, to walk beyond, to walk the plane of ease instead of the mountains of treachery that we were taught to see and recreate. And you'll probably hear me mention this more than once until I actually probably do a full episode on it. According to shamanic traditions, and like I said, you probably heard me say this before, maybe not, we have two books. One is white, and that's the book of soul contracts. That's the one that we're born with, right? Like that's like the astrology chart that we kind of like read, or we have read to us, like to understand the lessons that we came here to face. The other is the gold book. The gold book is the one we write in real time with the feathered quill and the divine ink, language only our soul understands, which is universal, just so you know, but it's coming from us directly. This is the book where we become conscious creators, where we say, I now choose what this experience becomes in my life, no longer reacting to experiences, instead accepting them even if we don't have the full clarity that we would like in that moment, because that clarity will come. And that's what this episode is here to help activate you, or activate in you in some ways, is that you may already be writing that book, this gold book. You might already be conscious of it and know it. Or this episode may be your invitation to start. Either way, there's no wrong place to be. If you walk with truth, if you seek mastery, if you remain teachable, you will grow. You will transmute, and you will alchemize. This is spiritual inclination at its finest. And so the next time you feel the urge to say, that shouldn't have happened, pause, breathe, and ask yourself, what if this is part of my climb? What if this mountain before me is already ready to dissolve? How can I raise my vantage point to make this mountain small? And if you're ready for that here and now today, stay tuned for the meditation paired with this episode, because it will begin shortly, or you can find it as a standalone publication on Friday on the YouTube channel, A Spiritual World. And as always, the energy therapy will be released Monday. I'm having a little harder time transitioning to a Monday, Wednesday, Friday than I originally anticipated. However, it will come when the time is right. So in the meantime, thank you for being here with me on Hermetically Speaking. May you walk the plane of ease always. And if this episode supported you, please like, follow, subscribe, and share it with someone else walking their gold book path. And remember, every moment can serve your becoming, even this one, especially this one. Until next time, may you walk in your wholeness. Remember, you are the temple. You are the flame. You are the frequency. Let us find each other in harmony. If this episode spoke to your soul, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our new YouTube home at A Spiritual World. That's A Spiritual World. Your support not only fuels the Hermetically Speaking podcast, it also nurtures the growing library of meditations, energy therapies, readings, and transmissions I offer to help us all walk this healing path together. Your presence, your listening, your evolution. They ripple out farther than you may ever realize. Thank you for being here. Thank you for becoming who you truly are. Until next time, keep speaking the truth your soul remembers. Namaste and many blessings on your way. Welcome As you enter this space, allow your breath to soften, your mind to quiet, and your energy to align. This moment is a gateway. What you receive here is encoded, intentional, and meant for your evolution. Let the transmission begin. Welcome, beloved soul. This is your sacred pause. A moment to rest, to reflect, and to remember that nothing you have ever lived was wasted. That every mountain you have ever faced holds a hidden plane beneath it. This is a meditation for accepting the path that was. Not because it was easy, but because it shaped you. And because now you are ready to let it serve you. Let us begin. Find a quiet space where your body can soften. Whether you're seated or lying down, allow yourself to fully arrive. Gently close your eyes. Take a deep inhale through your nose and exhale slowly through your mouth. Again, inhale deeply and exhale fully. Feel yourself arriving in this moment. Feel the weight of the past begin to settle, not to hold you, but to be witnessed. And say silently, I am safe to accept my path. I am ready to allow it to serve me. And now visualize a great mountain before you. This mountain is woven with moments from your life. Some that hurt, some that confused you, some you still don't quite understand. See the mountain shimmering with fractals, sharp points of pain, frozen timelines, things you've said shouldn't have happened. And let your soul's gaze soften. Imagine stepping toward the mountain, not to climb it, but to listen to it. Each shard begins to glow with light, Each one whispers, I served you. I taught you strength. I showed you where you abandoned yourself. I asked you to remember your power. And take a breath. Let these pieces soften. Let them integrate. And feel the mountain begin to melt, piece by piece by piece, into a wide golden plain. You are now standing at the edge of wholeness. Place your hands gently over your heart and repeat silently or aloud. I accept the life I've lived. I allow it to serve me. I forgive what once felt unforgivable. I no longer reject what shaped me. I choose to become through it. I now walk the plane of ease, not the mountain of resistance. And I do so with grace, with clarity, and with the wisdom of all I've lived. Visualize a golden light beaming down from above like sunlight spilling across a vast field. Let this light wash through your crown, down your spine, into your chest, your belly, your legs, your feet. This is the energy of peace. This is the frequency of empowered acceptance. Let it fill every place within you that once fought the path. You are not defeated. You are not broken. You are becoming. Begin to gently return to your breath. Wiggle your fingers and toes. And when you are ready, slowly open your eyes. And know this: the mountain may appear again. And now you remember the truth. You don't have to climb it. You don't have to fight it. You can rise above it, because the mountain is made of you, and you are now ready to walk in peace. Your activation is complete. Trust what continues to unfold. Carry the codes you've received into your breath, your being, and your becoming. If this transmission served you well, please like this video and subscribe to my channel so others may find their way to this helpful healing, and together we continue to rise in remembrance. Until next time, may your path be lit by inner truth and your steps guided by Source. This is Toriea, signing off for now. Namaste and many blessings on your way.